Hello everyone and welcome to everyone joining for this LinkedIn Live Scaling for the Future with Kompan and Contentful. I'm Anders Stentebjerg and today I'll guide you through the next 30 minutes. And I'm thrilled to have two guests with me today. I have my colleague Anna, who is one of our senior consultants here at Impact. And then I have Tobias Brandt. He is head of digital from Kompan. Also need to remember that this webinar is brought to you by one of our partners, which is Contentful, so thank you so much. And one last thing before we dive into the agenda, remember to ask questions in the chat. I will see if I can moderate them and look through them and then ask the questions to our two experts here in the panel. So, welcome Anna and Tobias.
Thank you.
Good. We have a full agenda ahead of us. And I promise you each and every minute will be worth it. So here's a quick rundown of what we'll cover. First, we'll talk about the website redesign. So we have a full spec agenda for today. First, we'll talk about the web design, the redesign of the website. And we will also talk about some of the growth that the Kompan has gone through over the last couple of months. And I'm pretty sure Anna will talk a bit about some of the tech behind the solution that Kompan has. And then I also promised that we will talk about AI because Kompan is already using it, and I know they also have something in mind for the future, which we'll talk about. So, Tobias, a bit of background. Why and how did Kompan do a redesign of your current website?
Well, our previous website, or actually websites, because we had a website per daughter company at the point, was at the end of their life cycle. The tech was perhaps ending their lifespan. Our old websites, we had 21. They were at the end of their lifespan. We knew that we were in many markets competing against ourselves. Cannibalizing with having several websites, for example in English or in German. So we wanted to have all the benefits of gathering this into a new modern platform that was also scalable for the ambitions that we had at Kompan. So we actually started a great process with Impact on having a thorough analysis on, first of all, the tech landscape that we wanted to work with, but also the ambitions we had for the user journeys. We have historically had quite a heavy focus on our products, but we always end up giving customers a solution. We're here to create healthier and happier communities, and that doesn't happen by product, that happens by either a complete playground or a fitness site. So we wanted to switch the focus from product to solution and help users inspire so that we become be inspired, so that we become part of their journey much earlier in their project phase. And we had a great pre-analysis is what we called it, and actually came up with a scenario where we had to revamp the way we did online communications. So we had to restructure much of our content into new navigation that took the users by the hand and helped them realize their projects. And that's where we, through this analysis, came up with partnering with Contentful as our content platform, and a bunch of other vendors as well.
But we'll get back to that. I'm a bit excited to hear more about, the journey that you talk about, and also something we wrote in the description about, you need to rapidly go to market.
Yeah.
Is that possible now, or how is that?
Yeah, you could say in the setup we had before, we had these, every time we wanted to enter a new market, we had to create new domain, new website, everything, new integrations. But taking this switch to Contentful and the rest of the tech stack, it has become markedly faster for us to enter into new markets. So we served these 20 markets and then one rest of world market previously. But if we want to engage into a new market, let's say in Southern America, we can now get this up and running actually within hours if we are, okay, days, the team won't say hours, but within days, if we have, for example, translations we can borrow from, this means that we only need to set up meta data about market, products, etc., etc. So it has reduced time to market markedly. And we can also see the results of these because we already agreed when launching the new website, let's test this in Southern America. And it's not like we now own, for example, a search index down there, but we have become a present company in the market digitally, and we weren't before. And we can see that in traffic, we can see it in interactions, and we can see it in leads.
And leads mean sales, right?
Perhaps.
Good. Could you be even more precise and walk us through how did a process look like when you needed to create a piece of content before, and how does it look like now?
Yeah.
All right, so Tobias, can you talk us through how you normally did it before you did the relaunch and how the process is now on creating content?
Kompan, we create a lot of content at our HQ, which is located in Odense, and then we distribute this to many great colleagues around the world in many, many markets. Previously, that was a very time-consuming process because we had to communicate via email, we had to see them translate the content, we had to then prove that it was right for launch, etc., etc. Working in Contentful, has been speed up markedly. So we have great workflows in there where we can distribute new content very, very fast. And we, as we will talk about later, we use translative tools to aid and speed up the process. And if we were to launch new content in a market or in all markets, we could do it within days, where previously it was within hours. No, not hours, weeks.
Makes sense. Thank you. Anna, do you have anything to add, or can we go on and talk a bit about the tech behind the solution here?
I think that we should move to the tech. Sure. It's connected to what Tobias has been talking about.
Yeah, and we already talked about it. Contentful is part of the solution, but could you talk us through some of the other technology choices that we made when we talked to Kompan first?
So when we, during the pre-analysis, were discovering what is the right tech for us to build a solution, we focused very much on what are the business requirements and what are the editor's flows. So everything that Tobias is talking about were the reasons for our recommendations, then Kompan's choice. Contentful was one of them, as you mentioned. Then we have Relevize to actually do search optimization, but also structuring of product information to make sure that our product list pages and detail pages are dynamically built, so there is no kind of a static work behind it. We have a single page application in the front, all is hosted on Azure, and then eventually we added PIM struct. So that is ultimately the whole architecture we have from the business solution direction. Then we of course have Kompan's systems of records as ERP and CRM towards which we are integrated, but that is something that Kompan IT takes care of by themselves.
Yeah, and we also, a big switch, not only in tech, but also approach to how we did this website was that we went with creating content modularly.
Yeah.
So where
what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, previously, if we were to create a news on a product launch, we would do everything that were on a page, all content, but switching to modules or building content by modules in Contentful, we can reuse a lot of previously used content. So, for example, if we do a module on sustainable playgrounds or green playgrounds or nature-based playgrounds, and we create this module, which could be of the purpose of navigation, we can use it everywhere on the site. And when you translated this once, it will be translated everywhere. This also means that, okay, we need to highlight some of our fitness content. Could be our great strength equipment. When we upload modules where this is in, it will spread across all sites in all markets and will be live updated.
Okay, that's very interesting. Anna, could you tell us why we went with Contentful? Because I know you and other colleagues, we had what we call a down selection of
yes.
content platforms that we scored.
And this score is ultimately what I have been mentioning, that with these requirements that we have collected from the editors, one of them being workflows, translations, modular build, I'm not really sure, performance was of course one of them. We then compared the other systems that we are normally working with and came to the conclusion that Contentful will be the best fit. There was one big risk, and that fits very well to what Tobias was talking about, and that's to teach the editors to actually use these modules. It's so much easier to fill in your template of a folder, kind of a headline, that's what it is. Here it's way more creative and it gives you way more freedom. And I think that that's what we were discussing a lot as the only risk that we had at that moment of, can the organization lift the different way of working?
Yeah.
So how has the adoption rate been?
Well, I could say that it was just smooth. Now, building with these modules gives you a great, how would you say, plate to take from.
Yes.
But it also, whatever you do to a module will have consequences everywhere. So you really have to be aware of where all of this content is being used. I would say when we were 1 to 3 months down the road, everybody was aware of that, and we had some issues, of course. We always have, but it was fixed very well, and you know, we could talk about how it works for us at our headquarters in Odense, but our marketeers around the world truly appreciate how much their burden in terms of translations and reuse of translations has been lifted. It has reduced the amount of time they use working on translating content markedly. And I think we've learned so much from this that these are going to give us new approaches to how we do translations in general.
I'm sorry, can I just, don't you think that it also like enabled some internal ownership of the content and actually creative freedom and enthusiasm, that before it was like, oh, let's just build it into a page, whereas here some of your team gets genuinely excited about how do we do this and how should we reuse it? And
yeah, there was a lot of excitement also because it was very, you were very limited by standard web templates previously. But in the new system, the creative possibilities are many. Sometimes too many, but then you can always get too creative, and then we have a look at that. But it also, it gets to have a pool of knowledge about what to reuse. So whenever you have a creative process and you test out new ideas with colleagues and say, oh, okay, yeah, but do you remember we used this module, or maybe you want to have a map in here, and so it really, it feeds some great processes for us and some great work.
Oh, for sure.
Cool. So let's move on and talk a bit about AI, because everybody is talking about it these days, right? Tobias, you already talked about that you use it for some of the content process, but maybe you could take us through how it's used now and what type of tools you maybe use, if you're allowed to share it.
Yeah. One of the great things about Contentful is that it has a great marketplace of plugins you can just enable. And we found a small tool in there called Linguini. So the previous process was that we would give some content to a marketeer, for example, in Germany, and then they would translate from English to German and vice versa. And what they would probably do is they'd use DeepL or Google Translate or something like that. But this plugin enables us to actually just deliver the content translated via DeepL. It's a very small, nice feature that reduces translate work.
So it is delivered in the current language that they're looking at?
Yes, exactly. Well, they previously had to take it out, and then maybe they wanted to work with it in another tool. We just did, we skipped that entire part and just feed them already translated content. It's something that we're testing, and it's not fully AI, it's maybe machine learning, but it's a small tool that fixes a lot for us. We also use it for what is the most boring part of SEO work, that is putting alt tags on images. So we found a small plugin in there that can auto-generate alt tags and at least inspire us to how we should work with alt tags. Put it in there and then run it through the Linguini app then you have an alt tag that is translated to 30 languages within 2 clicks.
And just so everyone understands, so it actually reads the image
Yes.
and looks what's on the image,
Yes.
and then it writes a text based on that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
And
then
is
put
it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But it works very well.
Yeah.
And it's done.
It's done, yes.
Yeah. So instead of doing it all yourself, you use it, and then what's the process afterwards? Just so I understand, is there a proofread, or do you just publish
We
it?
have
or?
I have great colleagues in my SEO team that looks at the input and say, okay, that's proper. Let's use the translation app to have that available in French and German, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it reduces it. The job wouldn't have been done before. Let's be honest about it.
Okay.
So it's a complete bonus on working with alt tags. We would never get around to translate them before.
No. Good input. I also know that you're working on a very exciting project. I'm not sure if you can share anything about it, but it does contain AI.
Yeah, well, we've seen many of the great benefits of including specifically machine learning translations. And we have a lot of products that we work with in the marketing mix. Catalogs, brochures, white papers, etc. By having this composable platform, we can integrate all of these, and now we're looking at one of our translation partners to actually scale everything in there, because it will save us for a lot of work, a lot of time, some cost, and that cost can be, or those resources can then be reused and even better proofreading. So we're really looking into, for us, it's all about scaling into new markets. And it's very fast building the platform. We need to have good translations and good content for smaller markets. And using these tools really enables us accessing markets that we wouldn't be in the same way, at least.
Yeah. And do you see any other products out there that could be interesting for companies like Kompan to work with? Graphic design tools, building up a website, producing code?
Yeah, I think there are many great. I think, the AI craze is a bit crazy. Everybody's so focused on it. I think it would be there are many great ways to work or collaborate with it. Right now, we use it as an input. We don't use it as an exact output to start out with.
You also gave me an example of if you go into a brainstorm session or something like that, if you need to create, let's say, 20 titles for landing pages or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just easier to have AI to create something that you can talk about.
Yeah.
Instead of, reinventing the wheel again and again.
And we've started using it as a pushback to what we have created. Two alternatives. For example, we talked about having call to action texts on new buttons. You need to split test on that, and it will always be your mind will be limited if you have to write 10 versions of click here. But with the right reference and the right context, ChatGPT, for example, is a very good tool to getting inputs for it. Then you can always elaborate and make it better yourself.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we talked about, Tobias, was installing tools like these. It also comes with, registration, and you need to maybe get in contact with legal. How have you handled that at Kompan?
Yeah, well, we really wanted to make sure that we had a stance on how to use this, at least from a marketing perspective. So we had a great process about discussions on whether you should use Google Translate or whether you should use DeepL or stuff like that. And then we gave recommendations for our colleagues around the world. I think people are very much in the explorative phase. And currently we don't see any limitations, but it's not something that we have implemented throughout the entire organization, and this will change everything. We're still on the surface of this like everybody else.
Yeah. Anything you would like to add, Anna, in this context? Not at this point.
Not necessarily, no.
No. Talking about the future and scaling for the future, is there anything you can share from, I know you had a session earlier today around some of the things that you're working on?
I don't think I will share anything from that session in terms of our roadmap. It was very interesting, as always, to have these strategic meetings with Impact.
I'm really excited about the personalization discussion and about what is it that we can do better, because personalization in products is something that many pages are using, and it's fairly simple because you have the data foundation behind products sufficiently to actually do something smart. Personalization of content though, how can you actually structure your content, figure out some smart models to somehow, personalization content is such a buzzword, right? How to do it the right way. I think that here we are trying to do something cool. Contentful is allowing us to do quite a lot in the combination with Relevise. So there is a bright future.
I'm very excited for that future.
Right?
we have in our business we work with many segments, and personalizing based on segment can be very difficult. And our content very often can be very segmented. So it's always about giving the right content to the right person at the right time. And we can't just drag some e-commerce stuff down from the hill, from the shelves, because our products are much more, and our solutions are much more complex than standard e-commerce.
Exactly.
So I'm really looking forward to what we're gonna explore in personalization, and then I'm looking forward to bringing this to a lot of new markets. The new smaller markets we have been expanding to, we've seen great results. First of all in indexations, but also in activity. And I just think when getting into these markets, it is so important, because it gives us credibility that we are the greatest playground manufacturer in the world. And and of course, it gives us credibility in the buying process. And we need to be there. All of our customers are digital prepared, so we need to be there, of course.
Yeah. Times are flying. When you're in good company, we still have 5 minutes left. So I'm going to grab my phone and see if we have any questions from the audience. Let me see here, if I can see if there are anyone here. See if there's one here. No, not at the moment. All right. Good, I have one here. So, Contentful. It's what we call versionless.
Yes.
Can you touch upon what that means?
Yes, and why it's so important. Working with other content systems, you are sometimes bound by versions, so that you have to upgrade. I really like how Contentful continuously communicate their roadmap, and they always update you on newest releases, newest possibilities, and they're great at inspiring on how to use their platform. This also means that you don't have to worry about whether you need to invest in a major version upgrade within the next few quarters. It's just always on. Yeah. And that is very, very nice. I think they have great transparency about what will be coming when, which is also very good. And it's just nice to work in.
So you don't have to be down for hours or maybe days, and then the website is up again.
Yeah.
It just automatically rolls out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And during the time we've used them, they've had one downtime for upgrade, and it doesn't affect anything at all.
Okay, that's
interesting. Very good.
Yeah. I also remember you, Anna, told me that one of the great things about it is that you also get access to new features. So it's not just a one-time product. It actually keeps developing over time. Is there anything there?
No, I think that it's mostly from my enthusiasm of tech savviness. I've been away from the Contentful on Kompan for a while, 2 months or something. When I logged in back, there's a completely new navigation, and there are so many new apps in the marketplace. I have been contacted by our contact in Contentful that there is a new feature that they're offering us to beta test, and it just keeps your again, ownership, or somehow it keeps you motivated to continue working with the tool, with your websites. And I know Tobias's teams, and I know that they're excited as well, which is just a nice kind of a feature on top of it all.
Yeah.
So, scaling for the future, are you ready?
Yeah.
Good.
With Contentful we are. Yeah.
Tobias, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
here
you for having
today.
me.
And same for you, Anna.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. And I just want to once again say thank you for Contentful for making this happen. And I hope to see you again. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or in the chat here, and we can guide you. Thank you so much for joining. See you.